Hey everyone, it is Jaime Jo Wright here at Madlit Musings, and I'm having coffee today with Bill Myers. Hey Bill. Cheers. Oh, it is super fun to have Bill here. And for those of you who are going, that name sounds familiar. You might know him from popular things like McGee and Me, which is what I grew up knowing you as, the author
Me
of
too.
McGee and Me. But, instead of me telling people who you are, why don't you tell? Because I'm sure you're far more entertaining to listen to. And tell our readers a little bit about who you are, what you've done in your life, your entire story. No, just
It's good.
introduce yourself.
I started out as a child. No, actually, it's funny. Writing was never something that interested me, uh, nor reading. But we'll keep that between
Oh,
us. Yeah,
ooh,
no, I know.
shh.
Um, but I was getting really bored with God by about 17 or 18 years old, and so I made a promise to him. I said, "I'll never say no to you. No offense, I love you right now, but you're kind of boring. I'll
Yeah.
make a deal with you. If I say yes to you for anything you want, let's see what happens." Well, you're young and stupid and naive. You get away with that. And for about 6 weeks, nothing happened. And then I grew up in the mountains of Washington State, real
Hmm.
rural. I'd seen 3 movies in my life.
Oh, wow.
They didn't interest me either. I
Okay.
like long walks in the wood. I did kind of fall in love with this Jesus guy, and I would read in the Bible just about every day. But I'd hide the Bible under the mattress, so no, my friends are hiding Playboy under the mattress. I'm hiding because I don't want to get busted. So
Yeah.
anyway, God, I love you. You're boring. I'm seeing the third movie of my life or fourth movie of my life. I'd seen Pinocchio.
Okay.
I'd seen The Parent Trap,
Okay.
and I had seen Pollyanna.
Wow. That's quite the repertoire there.
And now I'm watching The Godfather.
That's
You
a,
know,
that's a little bit of a different step.
it was a shock. Blood was spurting, people were getting shot, and
Right.
what freaked me out even more was my friends at the University of Washington now were
Okay.
standing up and cheering when people were getting massacred, and I just walked out of that theater numb.
Yeah.
Going, God, Lord, do you see what power there is in story? You,
Mm.
you know what you should do, and thanks for asking. What you should do is you should raise up these movie people and get them to do.
Right.
Imagine what would happen if they got that excited about you. And every time I told him what he had to do, it bounced back. And yeah, it's
Hmm.
like, no, I'm in pre-med. I know where I'm going. Let's not get loony here, God. Uh, for about 6 weeks, I kept getting this impression that I should go into movie making.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to watch a movie, let alone make one. But
Hmm.
because I made this promise, I applied to every film school in the country. Nobody would take me. I wouldn't take me. The only school that would take me was in Rome, Italy.
Oh, I would have gone. I'm just
It,
going to say,
it's
I would have
crazy.
gone.
So now I'm in Rome, Italy, studying a subject I know nothing about and a language I can't speak. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm not bored anymore. You got my attention, and that's sort of been the way it's gone ever since.
Yeah.
Um, I moved back, got married, moved down here to Los Angeles, become a rich and famous film director. Discovered they already had plenty of those, but thanks, and proceeded to starve. We didn't starve; we just became experts at top
Yeah.
ramen and macaroni and cheese.
It's amazing what you can make with ramen noodles.
It is,
It's
and I
really
said,
amazing.
"Lord, it's been a wild ride, uh,
Hmm.
but what's next?" And I
Yeah.
get a call from a TV producer who I was directing some plays in Los Angeles for free because nobody
Okay.
would hire me.
Hmm.
And he says, "Mr. Myers, we've seen. Would you be interested in writing for our TV series?" And I made sure they had the right Bill Myers. And I
Yeah.
said, "Do you pay?" And he said, "Oh yes." I said, "Sure, no problem." I hung up.
Yeah.
Jamie, I broke into tears going,
Oh,
Lord, what have
no.
I done? I got
Oh, no.
C's and D's in my one writing class in college. I kind of said I would do anything for you but write because that's a waste of time. And now so I wrote the world's worst TV show. It was so bad that I threw my tennis shoe at the TV set when I'm watching my own show. It was awful.
Oh,
I
no.
wrote another one. This time they were smart enough not to buy it, and
Yeah.
another, and they didn't buy it.
Uh-huh.
And we're back to, macaroni and cheese. And then I get a call from an uninformed publisher back east who says, Mr. Myers, we understand that you're a famous Christian TV writer. And I said, go on. And he said, could you take time from your busy schedule of starving
Mm-hmm.
to write a book for us? And I said, do you pay? And he said, yes. I said, sure, no problem. I can work that in. And Jamie, I wrote the world's worst book. It was so bad. Remember, C's and D's in a writing class.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
was awful. Um, and of course, I broke into tears again, going, God,
Right.
I promised to say yes, but come on. And but for whatever reason, they bought the book. Well, they had to. They
Right.
just the contract. But
Right.
then they bought a second one and then a third one, and I'm like, well, it's the only game in town. I still don't know what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
that was that was about 120 books ago. 80 national and international awards, a C.S. Lewis Honor Award. I'm hot stuff.
You
I,
are.
I just don't tell the publisher so.
No. No, 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 no.
You, you mentioned McGee and Me. It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
Absolutely had no idea. I get a call from another uninformed gentleman who says, Mr. Myers, we're inviting 18 of the most creative Christians in the country to the Ritz-Carlton at Laguna Niguel, and we're going to create a children's TV series. Are you interested? And I asked, what class? Do you pay? They said, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I said, sure, no problem. And he was right. There were 17 of the most creative people in the country. People
Wow.
there working on Happy Days, other people launching Amy
Okay.
Grant's record career. And, I'm trying to fit in. It's like, I've seen an episode of Happy Days. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. And I got an Amy Grant cassette. It's really fun. And I embarrassed myself so much. Go up to the room going, God, I know I promise always to say yes to you, but this time you're way over your head.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'll cut a deal with you. I don't know if you've ever cut deals with God. He's got
I've tried. Yeah.
fine print. You can never, he's
He
just
negotiates really well too.
clever. He's clever. So I said, I'll make up a lie and say there's an emergency tomorrow morning. I'll share my one idea about a lame idea about a kid with an imaginary friend. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll say there's an emergency and I got to go home.
That's perfect.
Deal? I figured that was the same as yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I showed up the next morning and I shared it. And they said, well, that's great. I said, look, I got an emergency at home. I go, oh, no, Bill. Tell us a little bit more. I got nothing. Well, tell us about where they live. A house? Oh, that's now I'm going to get creative. A big
Right.
house. Oh, a big house. Very good. Guys, look, I got, yes, Bill, but tell us. This goes on for 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
I'm winging it, making up
Yeah.
stuff I got. And after the third day, the guy that's running the program who, sends everybody home, he says, Bill, can you stay after? I think, great. He's going to make me pay for my hotel.
Right.
And he says, it's become obvious to us that you're the man God has called to quarterback this series. And I had done some acting down here in Los Angeles. So I said, well, yes, of course, I would make all the sense. That's how I got McGee. Jamie, everything
Wow.
I do, because of this willingness to say yes to God,
Yeah.
regardless of whether I'm qualified or not. Now, that doesn't mean I don't, work my tail off to
Right.
to
Yeah.
to uh, perfect a craft.
Right.
But yeah, that's my life story. Just
Yeah.
this goofball that keeps saying yes, keeps getting in over his head, and God keeps going. You know what? It's like I'm that kid in the back of the class, and the teacher says, God says, okay, I got this great thing planned. Of course, I won't tell you what it is because that's how I run the universe. But do I have any volunteers? And everybody's going, well, look at my shoes. And I got the kids
Yeah.
in college. And I'm in the
Yeah.
back going, ooh, 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 ooh.
Me? Me?
And poor God is going, anybody? Anybody at all? Ooh, ooh, pick me. It's finally,
Yeah.
all right, Bill, come on now.
I
So,
love that. I love that.
in a
So,
nutshell,
basically you kind of spearheaded the whole concept of the yes dare. Like you've heard about that, haven't you? Like,
educate me.
Okay, let me educate you. So I have kids that are, preteen and then a 14-year-old freshman in high school. Gosh, help me.
Mm.
Um, Advice on that later. But they have this thing like when they were in grade school, this whole concept of the yes dare came out where you would dare somebody to say yes to everything you asked them to do for a day. And there's even a movie out there with, I think it's Jennifer Garner, and it's like the Yes Dare, and it's a family movie. And her kids bribe her and her husband to say yes to them on anything they ask to do for the day. And it's just this funny movie because they end up in all these weird scenarios. And I think you spearheaded it without realizing it.
I'm living it. Yeah.
You are living it. I love it. I love it. That's so cool. That's so, I don't say yeses easily though. I'm just going to admit that. I'm pretty stubborn.
Well, yeah. No, I get that, but he's pretty good at those wrestling matches.
Yeah.
I have in the back of my house, out of sight from the family and
Yeah.
out of sight from the neighbors. I have a sand pit. It's about 30 feet long, 10 feet, 20 feet wide. I go there at night and have wrestling matches with God about some of these issues.
Bet.
Because I'm running a film company now. We've got some books
Mhm.
happening. I teach 14 and 15-year-olds at a fancy schmancy prep school
There
on
you
the life
go.
of Jesus. So
Okay.
I'm out a lot
Yeah.
wrestling with God. But the cool thing is I have about that much sand that I brought in, so I
Okay.
can throw myself down on the ground and have a fit. And that'll work. I'm
I
sure
love it. I love it.
God's very impressed with that. Yes.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Jacob in the Old Testament who wrestled with God and got his hip put out of socket or something? So are you
Yeah.
walking okay these days?
That's why I've got the sand. All the plenty of padding. No, I don't go down easy, but I always go down. And it's just a matter of time. So
Yeah.
I try to cut down the arguments a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, his logic baffles me.
Yeah.
I don't know how he pulls off what he pulls off.
Yeah.
I've been in, I've as a filmmaker, I've been around the world a few times. I've had my life threatened a couple times, and he just always shines through.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in circumstances, but certainly inside.
Right.
Inside, there's that peace and that joy that says, "Okay, here we go again. Buckle
Yeah.
in."
Yeah. It was funny. I was having a conversation with my daughter the other night because, at 14 now, she's gotten the speech of, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And being a very type A personality, that question for her was seriously loaded. Like, you have the next 24 hours to figure this out, is basically how she interpreted it. And so we were having a long conversation, and she had some of the ideas were really grand. And I was, doing the mom thing. Like, I want to bring her down to reality a little bit, like, I'm fine if God takes you to Hawaii to play guitar on the beach and be a missionary to the surfers. I'm cool with that. But let's also talk about some other options in case that's not where the Lord leads you.
Yeah.
And she
Right.
looks at me and she goes, Mom, she goes, I'm not dumb. I said, I never said you were, honey. She goes, No, Mom, I know that God could take me and have me do something that I would never want to do for the rest of my life. And I said, Oh, I said, well, how would you feel about that if it's something that you just don't want to do, but God says you have to do it? Well, I wouldn't like it, she goes, but she says, I do know one thing. She said, God always turns something awful into something good.
I
And I said, right there. I
Yeah.
said, that's your mantra for your career. I said, wherever God takes you, you nailed it.
Yep. I could be inside somebody's mouth right now as a dentist with sharp objects. I got a little AD going, and
Yeah.
pulling things just to keep it interesting. In fact, I was having a good chat with him this morning about this very thing. It's like
Yeah.
I'm doing exactly what I was wired for. I had no idea. Um,
Yeah.
I'd read as many books as I'd seen movies by the time I graduated. Right.
Wow.
I had no idea I was wired this way.
Yeah.
And then to get to talk about Jesus, which is, my heart,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I can't imagine it any better.
Right.
Inside, outside, yeah, we get rid of some of the nonsense. but
Right.
inside, just that peace and that joy. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, you knew what you're doing after all.
Yeah. Yeah. He really does. And it is such an adventure. And, I look at the kids. My husband's been a youth pastor and, now my daughter's in high school. And I'm just like, my husband and I are talking. We're like, why do we like working with youth so much? And my husband goes, because they listen to reason. And as adults, we stop listening to reason.
Mm.
He goes, we try to start justifying and figuring out ways to move around, or we give excuses, or we make all these justifications for why we need to do what we do. He goes, as a youth, he said, you say, God is going to turn everything into good. Trust him. And they're like, oh, okay.
I have three pillars of scripture for my life.
Okay.
And one is, we throw it around like a frisbee, but it is so true. Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
All things work together for the good if we love God and are doing what he wants.
Hmm.
The second one is James 1:2-4, Consider it pure
Pure
joy, my
joy.
brothers, when you encounter various trials,
Hmm.
knowing that it eventually leads to maturity. And
Right.
then the third one that's on my wall right here is from Thessalonians 5:16-18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of Christ Jesus for you. And when I stand on those three legs, um, I've got a balance that will never topple me. The
Mm.
wind blows, but I never get
Right.
blown over, and I'm
Yeah.
able to turn. Just recently on a movie set that we were doing, terrible situation happened between some of the crew members.
Mm.
I had no idea what to do. My director turns to me and says, "Myers, now what?" Because I was the executive producer on it.
Yeah.
I said, "Let's just thank God." He goes, "You're nuts." I said, "Yeah, I know. Let's thank God that he'll use it. Not thank you for the situation, but that he'll."
Right.
And 3 hours later, I'm sitting here in the office and I get a call. He said, "You won't believe it." Uh, the the two anyway. It's just amazing
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, with the 120 plus books you've written, I do know that you have a series that's pretty special to your heart. You have a book that's coming out September 25th, called Seer, but that's book, what is that? That's book 5 in a series called Rendezvous with God, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's the journey of somebody kind of along the lines of what we're talking about.
Very much so. It sounds like a nonfiction book. It's
Hmm.
fiction, with a dash of a lot of humor, uh, about a agnostic man who starts having Jesus starts appearing to him,
Hmm.
and the man's got his own issues. He's busy raising a 14-year-old niece, who
Mm.
is, knows everything, and what she does and her boyfriend does. And he's single, and he's busy trying to keep all all the pieces together. And then Jesus shows up, and he's like wondering if he should maybe look into medication or something. Uh, and then the Lord starts taking him back into the New Testament stories.
Mm.
And of course, Jesus and the guy's name is Will,
Okay.
kind of like Bill. Anyway, the
Yeah.
guy's
Mm.
the he keeps taking Will back into some of the New Testament stories. Only Jesus and Will see each other, and Jesus is talking about it. He says, well, you see this and this and this, and what do you think about that? And Will is like, uh, the series, and you're right, it's really, really close to my heart. I've
Yeah.
never written this way, Jamie. I'm
Yeah.
I write myself into a corner. Usually, I start out as a film guy. You
Yeah.
have to know every little detail because you can't go down a rabbit trail. But with this, I write myself into a corner having no idea where I'm going. And then I turn to where I pretend Jesus is sitting here on my desk and I go,
Hmm.
now what? And the stuff that bubbles up in my head is
Yeah.
amazing. And I know I'm not claiming, well, I guess I could claim divine inspiration, but certainly not biblical inspiration. But it's just one, and I
Yeah.
honestly, you'd think I'm not, well, you know that now, nuts, but I'm like, I'm giggling and going, oh, that's good. Hang on. Anyway, so Will goes from reluctant and eventually he becomes a believer in the first book. That's called Rendezvous with God.
Mm-hmm.
In the second book, he starts to realize he doesn't get sucked into believing what the world tells him he is. He has to keep believing what Jesus says he is. He's
Yeah.
not what he owns. He's not what he accomplishes, and he's not what people say. But he goes through that the hard way. Then in the third book, he starts to learn what prayer is, as
Mm-hmm.
Jesus just takes him by the hand through his own stumbling humor, takes him by the hand and shows him what prayer really is, oftentimes using the Lord's Prayer as a template. The fourth book, which is called something, um, 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 um,
Commune?
no, Commune is
No,
the one
commune's
on
the third.
prayer. The third one is called Insight. I
There you
knew I
go.
knew it. He now has to put his faith into action, and he
Mm.
winds up becoming a Bible leader in a local prison, which you know. And then the fifth book. Oh, in the fifth book, which is one we're talking about today, I knew we'd
Mm.
get to it. It's
Yeah.
called Seer. He's caught in a prison riot in the last book,
Okay.
and the Lord takes him to heaven, and he says, "We're done if you want, but if you like the program, and if you want to continue to serve me, I got some stuff for you to do back on earth." So he comes back to earth. He sees from time to time into the supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
the angels that he'd seen or the demons that he'd seen,
Mm-hmm.
and he's called to correct a top televangelist who is preaching a gospel that is all about me, all about
Right.
what you
Yeah.
can get from God. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's and Will has to suck it up and be hated by a lot of
Yeah.
people to correct this guy. Again, those are heavy topics,
Mm-hmm.
but hopefully I've seasoned it enough with humor that that the medicine is candy coated and you don't know you're
Right.
taking
It
it
goes down a little easier.
until it's too yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
in the seer, he eventually, because they have this big crusade. It's not really a crusade. In fact, it's all about me. I think is the title or something like that at the crusade. Uh,
Okay.
in Vegas, in Las Vegas. So he has to deal with a lot of the stuff that he sees, the way the Christians are being seduced back into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it's about.
I think it's so great because, you know, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but 3 years ago, my mom passed away, and I was with her when she did. And she had told me prior to her passing that she said, I want you to hang on to my hand until I get to the end of my race. And she says, but when I see Jesus, I'm going to let go. And she says, so you let go of me too when it's time. And that's literally exactly what happened. I was holding her hand, and it was a very peaceful passing, um, thankfully. And there was one moment where she squeezed my hand, and then she literally just kind of pushed it away. And I just whispered, I said, "Oh, you see him, don't you, Mama?" And that was it. And she was moved. She'd moved to heaven, is what I like to say. But it
Yeah.
was in that moment um, that I became extremely aware of how thin the veil is between us and eternity and the spiritual world and the things that we literally can't see, but we can close to see. And I told my husband, I said, I don't like the fact that my mom passed away. Selfishly, I want her here. But I said, to be that close to feeling Jesus,
Yeah.
like you could feel his presence. And I could almost see, like through her vision, him standing there. And that moment she squeezed and pushes away, it was so freeing, because it was like, it wasn't a tearing away. It wasn't a sorrowful, oh, I have to say goodbye to my baby girl, or, oh, I have to say goodbye to my mom. It was I don't need you. I have him, and he's right here, and you're right here, and we're here together, and you're going to come soon. And it was just so neat. And so I love the concept of the books that you're writing, with that element of bringing God into an active relationship. It's not an imaginary figment or a
Yeah.
concept. It's real.
Yeah. My yeah. What a wonderful thing to remember for you. And I'll steal that sometime if you don't mind.
No,
Um,
go for it. Seriously,
Bookworm
go for it.
for Bookworm 27. Um, uh, uh, my my thing is, I guess my passion is Jesus over the years has become such a, I know it sounds like a cliche, but such a friend. I'm on fire for people to see him not as a stuffy butt God
Hmm.
that says jump through the hoops, but as this intimate friend who loves me so much that he died for me.
Yeah,
That's a friend. So with all the books and with the teaching I do and so on, I just keep trying to strip away the religious varnish that
yeah.
we coated him up in. And
Hmm.
we call that respect. I don't think so. I think we're insulating ourselves. I think
Hmm.
when the religious people coat him all up in varnish and keep him further away,
Yeah.
I don't think that's respect. I think that's insulating ourselves from what would happen if God really was
Mm.
our intimate best friend.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
I guess that's my life mission. That's certainly the mission of that series,
Yeah.
uh, is to strip away the varnish and to have a friend that sometimes jokes with you, is ironic,
Yep.
and and lets you see lets you see without calling you on it, lets you see your own goofiness. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I've never had more time writing a series in my life either.
It's awesome.
Just hanging out with Jesus and going, "Oh, that's good. Hang on."
Yeah,
You know,
hang on there, Lord. This is good. This is good. I do. I love the fact that he has a sense of humor, and it's so obvious, just in our lives. And I challenge anybody listening today to go back and look at the periods in your life where you can see God's hand moving, and then also see his sense of humor. When I was um, young and single, and I thought getting married was going to be the coolest thing on earth, I was praying one day in a car. I was driving to work. I remember this very clearly. And I said, Lord, I don't know if you choose one specific person or if you just allow us to kind of pick a person and then you work within that relationship. But I said, Lord, if you do the whole, like, here's the one person that I've created for you, I said, I can't tell you enough how much I don't want it to be somebody like Nathan. And I dropped the name of my future husband to God as the worst possible solution that God could provide for a future spouse. Like, I mean, of anybody on the planet, Lord, this is the epitome of what you should not give me. And about 2 years later, we were married. And so it's situations like that, we tell our kids at youth group and stuff like that, just look at the person that you don't like the most and watch God work.
yeah,
Fun moments of humor.
yeah. We just, as you know, I think I even sent you a link. We celebrated our 50th anniversary.
Yes.
It was a
Yeah.
prenuptial marriage, so or prenatal marriage, I guess. So, but yeah, she
Yeah.
what I feel for Brenda now makes sentimental, ooey, Hallmark, buzzy stuff like junk food
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to the depth of
Yep.
going through the trenches together and
Yeah.
till death do us part. Well, does that mean homicide's an option? To work all those things.
Yeah, I always told my husband, I said, if you kick the bucket before I do, our pets are getting a serious upgrade in life because I'm much more of a pet lover than he is. So we always
Yeah.
you have to have sense of humor, right? That's always fun. All right. So if readers want to find the series and then explore all the other things that you have your creative genius involved in, because you've said yes so many times, where's the best place for them to find you?
Oh, well, there's always the BillMyers.com,
Yep.
website. And I'm a big fan of local bookstores for the
Hmm.
two or three that are still out there.
Yep.
Uh, I'm a big fan of going there. If I'm not on the shelves, you can always order the book,
Yep.
or then there's Amazon, this,
Dun, dun, dun.
stuff, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's yeah. I'm just
Just hanging out.
at a loss for words, and I'm
That's fine.
supposed to be a wordsmith.
No, it's okay. That's all right. Yeah, BillMyers.com is a great place to start. And then for those who want some sense of humor for your kids, there's kids' books that you're involved in too, like the Magnificent Mulligans. And there's probably more, but they're not. My brain's not working now. So,
Well, the one that's after McGee and Me, and it's 28 volumes in this other series called The Incredible Worlds of Wally McDougal.
that's the one.
That's done like 2.2, 2.3 million books. And I get letters from, or well, not anymore, but I used to get letters before they were email from
Mhm.
boys. And you could tell they really weren't handwritten. They were sort of carved into the paper. Mr. Myers, I don't read. When's your next book coming? Your best pal, Gus. It's like, okay.
I love
So
it.
I wrote it for the series for boys
Yeah.
because there were no book series for boys at the time,
Hmm.
and no publisher would buy it. I said, why? Because they said, well, only girls read. I said, well, what do you have out there for boys? Well, we have this nice horse story.
Mm,
And anyway, so yeah,
yeah.
that sort of broke the mold. Then some of the secular boys caught on. Captain Underpants, which is a
Right.
couple degrees below potty humor for me,
Yeah.
uh, and Diary of a Wimpy
Wimpy
Kid.
Kid. Yep.
But they followed after Wally McDougal, starting, and I think they saw where the money was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Wally's still selling. He's still paying for my mortgage.
So you have a step up from macaroni and cheese. Then you were able to add hot dogs, right?
Say that again.
I said you've stepped up from just macaroni and cheese. You were able to add hot dogs to the menu too
Yeah,
now. So that's good.
and get the kids through college,
There
and
you go. There you go.
they'll appreciate it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man. Well, Bill, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and chatting. And I hope the people listening can be encouraged to say yes to the Lord today and see where He's going to take them because it's going to be an adventure.
Yeah, you only got one life. Why mess it up trying to do it yourself?
I like that. All right.